All right, golf addicts, DB here, and I have two names to avoid in DFS or consider avoiding in DFS for the John Deere Classic 2022 from TPC Deere Run. Now, this could get hairy. Okay, I'm gonna jump out on a limb here. I'm standing out over the limb. These fade videos are tough to do. Okay, because I feel like if they do well, I get chirped at. If the sleeper videos don't do well, then I don't hear anything. So we'll see how this goes. And it was actually kind of tough because when you look at ownership projections, now I'm recording this on Tuesday around noon. When you look at ownership projections early on so far on Fantasy National, there is what I suspected a lot of dissemination between the ownership, right? There's not a whole lot of guys in like that 20 to 25% plus range that we typically get in a field, in any given week. It's definitely more spread out. The field is ugly, okay? It's boss ass ugly, okay? It's tough to pull the trigger on some of these guys, I know, and sometimes you look up at the top of the board and you feel like I gotta have a little piece of somebody up here that makes me feel a little more comfy and cozy when I finish my roster. But the fact is, in a week like this, any roster, you're going to have a little bit of queasiness because the names that you're used to seeing, fill your roster with maybe five of the six spots are names that typically make you feel uneasy, right? And here's the thing, there's not a lot of separation. We talked about this on the podcast. If you look at the guys at 10K and above this week versus any other week, there is not much separation. All right, let's dive in here. I want to take a look because I think the two names that I'm going to give you right now, the first one is Webb Simpson. I know. It's Webb Simpson, but DB, he's back. He's playing better. I agree. You're right. He's 10.6K. Currently, he's projected on Fantasy National at 19%, and been in 28% of the early generated lineup so far on Fantasy National. That's the highest of any player in the field. So it looks like everybody's saying, "Hey, I'm getting the top player in the field at a slight discount, being 10.6. It's not 10.8, 10.9, 11 even." So I'm getting a slight discount. The discount is baked into the field strength, and Webb's not a top tier, top five player in the world, so I'm not having to pay up for him. So I'll do it this week because he's playing better. The course suits him, and I need somebody like him in my lineup. But I think the game theory here for a GPP would say, you know, the floor for that guy is much lower. The floor for Webb Simpson here is much lower than your typical 10.6K price player in a given week. That is somebody like a Sam Burns or a Xander Schauffele or a Patrick Cantlay or even a Justin Thomas, something like that. The floor is so much worse. And I think that's the problem with pulling the trigger on a guy like Webb. Let me open up Fantasy National. Let's take a look at Webb because I give you that. He is playing a lot better. It's hard to find a hole in Webb Simpson right now. He's added a little distance. He continues to hit fairways at a good clip, gain strokes putting everywhere. But I will say bent grass is his worst surface historically. Gain strokes in easy conditions, which we're looking at here. Gain strokes in calm and windy conditions, moderate conditions, which we're looking at here this week. Yes, and Webb seemingly has come back from this neck injury or whatever plagued him earlier in the year when he was really struggling. He's definitely hitting the ball better and more consistently. I got to say, it is tough to poke holes statistically in Webb's game, but when you look at just the price and the ownership, I think it's worth considering. The other thing is we have not seen Webb play this event since 2010. And the question is, why not? Is it a scheduling thing? It probably is because, he played it 3 years in a row. I think it was 3 years in a row, '08, '09, and 2010, and had, two decent finishes. I think a T21 was maybe his best finish. But for, a course like this that seemingly fits Webb's player profile, why wouldn't he come back here? I Again, the only thing I can think of is the scheduling impact, where the John Deere typically falls in the schedule leading up to the Open Championship or on the heels of a US Open is probably not ideal for Webb. So that's probably the reason why. But he hasn't been back here in over a decade, and he's the highest priced guy in the field, projected to be the highest owned guy in the field. And I just don't think that's the same as if you were paying up for, a John Rahm or whoever at 10.6. It's just not the same. So I would rather drop down and go balance, which a lot of people are gonna probably do, but you can have a lot of leverage there. The other guy that I'm talking about fading, before I get to him, I want you to drop this comment. The next player to jump to Live. We just saw Matt Wolf leave for Live Golf. The young college prospect, I believe, out of Oklahoma State as well, has left. Can't remember his name, but we've seen more players jump. The Portland event is coming up. Who do you think is the next player to jump the ship of the PGA Tour and head to Live Golf? That is a hot topic right now. Drop that in the comments. I'm interested to see what you guys think, and it also helps the algorithm. Give the video a like if you don't mind. Give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel if you've not done that either. And check out the sleepers video that should be already up on the YouTube channel as well. Check that out. I got two sleepers for you for the John Deere Classic that I think are going to be good. All right, the last player I'm going to give you, and this one to me may be the scarier fade, honestly, and it's the other guy up top. It's Adam Hadwin, and it's a lot of the same reasons I'm giving you because even though I think Hadwin's obviously having a better year than Webb Simpson, the other thing I forgot to mention about Webb, he's like 105th in the FedEx Cup standings, which is probably one reason why he wants to be here. He wants to add a little cushion going into the playoffs in just 6 weeks. I could imagine that he chose this place. He doesn't want to play every tournament for the next 6 weeks, so he's going to choose this place, a place that suits his game best, and probably try to get some FedEx Cup points. So he's motivated, which is a thing in the plus column for him. Now, Adam Hadwin's sitting much better in the FedEx Cup playoffs, doesn't really need to be here, hasn't played since the U.S. Open, but he's here because I think this golf course suits his game quite well. And I don't know if he's qualified for the Open Championship or not. That may be what he's trying to do. Anyway, Adam Hadwin is at 10.4K on DraftKings, projected on Fantasy National around 17%, and he's been generated in around 19% of lineups on Fantasy National. Now let's take a look at Hadwin. He's definitely shown better opportunities for upside here lately as we look at Adam Hadwin. I mean, with seventh place finish at the U.S. Open, three consecutive top tens at the Players, the Valspar, and the Valero. He's had a good season. He really has. Now, if you pull up the Deere, he's played really well at the John Deere, 8th in 2016, 18th in 2015. Now, why hasn't he been here in the last 6 years? Well, again, it could be the scheduling thing, just where it tends to fall. I don't know, but he's here this year. Now, the only concerning thing, other than being, like I said, what's he, the second highest priced player in the field? You're paying up for him. It's costing you a lot, and you need him to perform very well to make up that price, right? Otherwise, you're not really losing anything by not rostering him. But if you look other than that, look at what he's not doing great, and that's really the consistency gaining strokes off the tee and approach. He's doing a lot of damage around the greens. Now, when he does gain strokes on approach, he tends to really go off 4.2, 3.3, 4.3, 3.5. And I looked at the US Open. And if you look at the US Open, he didn't necessarily kill it in the strokes gained approach category or off the tee either. He was 29th in approach and 32nd off the tee that week on his way to finishing 7th. He really did his damage around the greens where he finished 5th and 11th putting. Now I know this is considered a putting contest, right? And Adam Hadwin's one of the best putters on the PGA Tour, so that would be a good reason to have him. And I do think that's the case. I do think strokes gain off the tee is going to matter a good bit though, because you're going to need to be in the fairways here. And Adam Hadwin, probably a pretty accurate guy, I would imagine. Let's take a look. Let's see. Yeah, I mean it's iffy, right? Like he's not gaining strokes with distance very often. Um, he did in Canada, maybe, and he's Canadian. Maybe he was inspired by being in his home country, and he just went ape shit and started hitting it far. But good drives gained and fairways gained, not necessarily an automatic thing for Adam Hadwin, like maybe it is for Webb Simpson. If we look at approach and proximity numbers, I prefer to look long term here at the approach and proximity numbers for those key distances, which the 125 to 150 and 150 to 175. Those are your key metrics. Not great, but not terrible. Um, I don't know. I think the biggest reason for Hadwin, again, like Webb, is ownership and price. And what is it going to take for him to be a guy worth paying up for that ownership in a field like this, where the top tier guys are not the same top tier guys that we're used to seeing. But other than that, the ball striking for Hadwin is a little bit questionable. He tends to bail himself out around the greens. And if you're doing that here for John Deere Classic week, you're screwed because your winning score is going to be 20 under. Okay. So there you go. Two potential fade sleepers. I'm sticking my neck out there a little bit, folks. So for that, give the video a like, give me that comment. Who's the next guy to jump for Live? Subscribe to the channel and check out more awesome content on the Tour Junkies channel. And may your screens be green for the John Deere Classic. See ya.